Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a feeling we all know, that flash of white-hot anger that comes from some tiny little provocation. You know, the kind that threatens to just completely derail your day? Well, the solution, it turns out, is hiding in an ancient story with a surprisingly modern lesson on mastering our reactions. This is The Bear and the Bees, The Wisdom of Restraint.
So picture this. You've spent, I don't know, maybe an hour carefully crafting a really important email. You've laid out your points, you've been diplomatic. You hit send. And the reply that comes back? One word. Noted. Ugh. That little jolt of frustration, that feeling of being totally dismissed, that right there is the sting.
And in that moment, how do you respond? I mean, what's your gut reaction? Do you immediately fire back an email that's just as short? Or maybe you start drafting a, let's be honest, passive-aggressive follow-up? That split-second, impulsive choice, that's exactly what we're going to break down today.
What's kind of wild is that the best way to handle that modern-day frustration doesn't come from some new productivity hack, but from a really old fable. And in this explainer, we're going to unpack that story to give you a powerful mental model for getting a handle on your reactions.
So here's the game plan. We'll start with those everyday stings, then we'll get into the fable itself. We'll look at how things escalate from a sting to a full-on swarm, connect that to our own lives, and then finally, we'll uncover the practical wisdom that helps us master our responses.
All right, first up, the everyday sting. Before we even meet the bear, let's take a closer look at our own lives and maybe start to notice those small, daily things that just have a knack for knocking us off balance.
And to really understand how to handle these stings, we turn to the heart of our explainer, the ancient fable of the bear and the bees. This is a story from Aesop, and believe me, it has been teaching a timeless lesson for centuries.
Okay, so our story starts out simply enough. We've got a bear, he's big, he's powerful, and he's driven by one thing, his appetite for honey. And what do you know? He finds exactly what he's looking for, a fallen log that he knows is just packed with the sweet stuff, but it's also home to a swarm of bees. So, as the bear starts poking around, just one single bee flies out. Just one. It sees the threat, it does its job, and it gives the bear one sharp sting right on the nose before zipping back inside the log. This right here, this is the inciting incident. The single sting.
So how does this giant, powerful bear react to one tiny little sting? Pure, unthinking rage. He doesn't back off, he doesn't rethink his strategy. No, he completely loses his temper and just attacks the log itself, trying to smash the whole nest to pieces. And in doing that, he unleashes his own personal catastrophe.
And this brings us right to the central lesson of the whole fable, how we get from a single sting to an entire swarm. Let's break down how the bear's reaction, not the bee's first sting, was the real reason he ended up in so much pain.
You can really map out this whole disaster. It all starts with step one, a single sting. It's minor, it's annoying, but it's manageable. But step two, this is the critical moment. The bear chooses to attack the log. This is a massive, totally ego-driven, and completely out of proportion reaction. And the result? Well, that's step three. He unleashes the entire swarm on himself. A catastrophic and, let's be real, an entirely self-inflicted problem.
Which brings us to the one question we have to ask ourselves in those moments. When we feel that sting, is that flash of satisfaction we might get from getting even really truly worth the swarm that we know is probably going to follow? Okay, so let's pull this into our world. Where are our modern-day beehives? Where are the places in our lives where we are most tempted to just strike the log? You see this pattern play out everywhere. Personally, the sting is a car cutting you off in traffic. Attacking the log is leaning on the horn, tailgating, engaging in road rage. And the swarm? A car accident, or worse. Interpersonally, a snarky comment from your partner is the sting. Turning it into a huge fight about their character flaws, that's attacking the log. And the swarm is a night on the couch, or even worse, damaging the trust in the relationship. The pattern is always the same.
So, how in the world do we avoid this? Well, the fable actually gives us the answer. The only way the bear saved himself was by diving into a nearby pool of water. This is what we'll call the wisdom of the water. It's our strategy for a tactical retreat, for de-escalation.
And what's so cool here is how ancient wisdom and modern science are basically saying the exact same thing. For thousands of years, spiritual traditions have taught that a soft answer turneth away wrath. Today, neuroscience gives us the why. It's about preventing something called an amygdala hijack, which is when our emotional brain just completely takes over. That dive into the water, it's literally a nervous system reset.
So let's get really clear on what this is. An amygdala hijack is that immediate, overwhelming emotional flood that feels way, way bigger than the situation actually calls for. It's your brain's ancient survival wiring overriding your rational mind. And that pool of water that can be anything that creates space, taking a deep breath, going for a walk, anything that lets your logical brain get back in the driver's seat.
And this is such a powerful way to reframe this whole thing. Choosing not to react isn't a sign of weakness. It's the strategic preservation of your own power. Think about it. Your attention, your energy, it's a finite resource. Every single time you swat back at a single bee, you're leaking that precious energy to something or someone that just doesn't deserve it.
Okay, let's bring this all home. How do we actually make that shift? How do we go from being the reactive bear to becoming the calm guardian of our own peace? This is all about mastering your reactions. So here are the key lessons to walk away with. First, try to see the sting not as an insult, but as a gift, a warning sign of a bigger danger. Second, remember that in a world that is so loud, silence can be your most powerful response. Third, the real winner of a fight isn't the one who hits the hardest, it's the one who stays dry. And finally, my personal favorite, always, always count the bees before you strike the nest.
And to really put this into practice, here are a few questions to reflect on. Ask yourself, honestly, am I attacking a log in my life right now? Is my desperate need to be right in this argument really just a desire to be destructive? And maybe try this as a practice. At the end of the day, think about the stings you got and consciously decide which ones truly deserve nothing more than your silence.
And if you take away just one single thing from all this, let it be this mantra. It's a conscious choice you can make in that tiny space between the sting and your reaction. I choose the pool of reflection over the fire of rage.
So the final thought is this: go forth and just leave the fallen logs alone. Restraint isn't about being weak, it's about being wise. It's about understanding that the water is deep and the air is clear, for those of us who have the strength to not provoke the swarm.